I, John, was in exile on the island of Patmos. One day, it was the Lord's day, the Spirit seized me, and I heard behind me a loud voice like a trumpet saying, "Write down what you see in a book and send it to the 7 churches in Asia Minor." Giovanni receives this vision of the God who comes on the Lord's day. Many Christians who read this text instinctively think of Sunday, forgetting that it is a Jew who is writing, nourished by the Hebrew scriptures and deeply rooted in the religion of his fathers. Furthermore, the expression Lord's Day, referring to Sunday, is encountered only from the 2nd century in rare writings of that time. It is much more reasonable to think that the Lord's Day mentioned by Giovanni refers to the Sabbath, called precisely the Lord's Day in the Hebrew scriptures. On the other hand, the constant recurrence of the number 7 in the Apocalypse makes the reference to the Sabbath, the 7th day, at the opening of the prophecy as a sort of intonation, plausible. This interpretation is justified finally by the fact that the Sabbath introduces the cycle of Jewish feasts that structure the entire book of Revelation. It is probable that Giovanni also refers to another Day of the Lord, to the Yom Yahweh of the biblical prophets, which designates in the Old Testament the day of God's judgment and his coming at the end of human history. One can reasonably conclude that Giovanni had the vision of the day of the eternal, the day of the final judgment and his return during the Sabbath day, the Lord's Day. The same coincidence is found in the book of Daniel, where the prophet receives a vision related to a Yom Kippur ceremony precisely during the time of Kippur. But Giovanni is struck by the spatial dimension from which the voice of God comes, behind him. In Jewish thought, the past is perceived in front of the person, while the future is located behind. Thus, the intention of the text is to make this voice perceived as coming from the future. It is the voice of God resounding from the future. It is the voice of a God who is coming,